Thanks to the modern miracles that are science and the post office, it's possible to get just about anything in the mail now, from uncooked meals to DNA tests to a wig for your dog. And while I could talk about dogs and wigs all day, this episode is actually about those DNA kits. Just how accurate are they, and how much stock should you put in the results? Private companies have offered these DNA tests for over a decade, but recently they've gone mainstream. We even had an episode where Trace and Amy tried them out. The concept is pretty simple. You just spit in a tube and send it off to a stranger, except this time they actually want your spit for once. The company's lab extracts your DNA from the cells in your spit and compares it to DNA in their database. A couple of months later, you get a breakdown of information about your ancestry, how at risk you may be for some diseases, and a bunch of other stuff. It sounds cut and dry, but there are a ton of asterisks along the way. First, there's the fact that only a small percentage of your DNA is getting tested. You've got over 6 billion base pairs in your 46 chromosomes, and they get passed on randomly from your parents. The results can vary a lot, even among siblings. One test of fraternal twins found one twin's DNA was nearly twice as British and Irish as the other. Obviously, they have the same parents, so they have the same family history, but the DNA that was passed down to them and then tested was wildly different. To complicate things further, there is no one definitive gene from anyone that pinpoints where they're from. Instead, there are sets of genetic markers that populations might share. Not everyone in that group will get all those genes, and some people from other places may have some of the same genes by coincidence. So when you get your results back from these tests and you see that you're 25% European, it doesn't mean 1/4 of your ancestors were European. It means 1/4 of the genetic markers they were able to test seem to be prevalent the most in Europe. Plus, the DNA you send in is not getting compared to a massive representative sample. These companies are using as few as 115 people from certain regions to define what the genetic markers of people from that region are. That's not a ton of people, and remember how much genes can vary even between siblings. So using these tests to trace where you come from is fuzzy at best, but they do have another compelling use: identifying if you carry the genes for certain diseases. Again, this topic isn't as straightforward as you might think. These tests can identify if you have genes associated with certain diseases, but they can miss minor variations to the genes, leading